Perfect. You guys, welcome back to the SHAMIC. I'm so excited because today I have Audrey Stewart, and you have been killing it, young lady. I've seen you blowing up.
Oh, come on.
No, come on, say more.
Hey, come on. Everybody take turns telling me. No.
Yeah. I haven't got a message from you yet, Monterey, so where are my compliments? No, but I saw you did stand up on Drew Barrymore's show,
I did.
right?
That was awesome. Yeah.
And it was like it wasn't like, was it live in front of a studio audience?
No, so we pre-recorded it. And then she, on her show, she gestures. She's like, we have a new comedy club. Like, check out Audrey Stewart, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that's on the TV show. And then they have to go into the Drew Barrymore site on the virtual comedy club to see it.
Was that like nerve-wracking?
No, because I did it in my house. So her team like came and gave me all the equipment. And like,
nice.
I loved her team and they like helped me set up. And then I had my girlfriend and then one of the team members sit on the couch while I did my set.
Oh, nice. So it wasn't like completely nobody.
No, but I worked that 3 minutes pretty hard, like in my own living room. It was nice not having to do it out in like shows because I had to get the feel for no laughter or anything, which also could have been shows. No, could have also been.
I don't understand.
So it was nice practicing to my beta fish, and then
did you get to talk to Drew at all?
No, but her team had told me that she watched my stuff and thought it was hysterical.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that was really cool because, you know, growing up, she was like in all the favorite movies.
Oh my God,
and
Charlie's Angels. I used to love that movie
so good.
Much. Yeah.
And so it's just really cool to, you know, little things like that are starting to happen.
Yeah, where you're like, dude, did I just do a thing with Drew Barrymore? You're like, was I Drew Barrymore and then me? You're like, was I there?
Was that us together? And you know, sometimes with stand-up, you're not desensitized to things. You're always excited, but you don't understand like how exciting they are sometimes because you try not to let yourself get too excited.
For sure.
But like my hometown people from the Midwest, they're all like Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
That's Drew Barrymore and Audrey Stewart.
Like, that's Drew Barrymore. We gotta make a statue of Audrey.
There's a Hoosier on the Drew Barrymore show. I'm like, yeah. Like if I went to my hometown bars after it showed, everyone would be like, shots for the Drew Barrymore show.
They're like literally carrying you out like on their shoulders, like body surfing. Dude, that's amazing. That's I love awesome. That. Yeah. No, but that's good that like you have to take inventory like that. Like when that happens of like, oh my God, I always tell people, I'm like, do it every 3 months.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like take inventory like of your life because it's like, oh my God, who are the people that just like made me feel so good or inspired me? Or like, what are the things that happened that I, you know, said I wanted to set as a goal? Like now that has happened because it's like, it's natural to always like constantly think of like the next thing. And then you're like, oh wait, I didn't celebrate like all these small wins.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, I think celebrating the small wins is what we have to do so we don't get like burned out.
For sure.
Things like that.
And it just feels good.
Feels
you know
so
what I mean?
good. Yeah. And it's nice to have like a community outs because I have like, I'd say like my best friends are not stand-up comedians.
That's good,
so my best friends are not stand-up comedians. Yeah. I've got a couple that are stand-ups, but like they just celebrate every win with me so much too, where it's just like nice and it just feels good.
You have to have like, it's, you know how they say like, oh, it takes a village to raise a baby. And it's like, it takes a whole entire team of people to like have success and be healthy, like in entertainment.
Exactly.
Like it really does.
Yeah. It's nice to have the boat circle outside of it too.
Absolutely.
It just reminds you. So
yeah. Like, hey, stay home. Cause you were saying earlier before we start recording, like you were saying that, you know, sometimes like when you start or like when you're doing stand up, like you were saying that's so important to have like friends and a life like outside of it because you feel like really like, do you feel like overwhelmed? Like, or what?
I just am in my head too much.
Yeah.
I think in stand up, I'm in my head and it's just a rough industry sometimes where it's like you have to say yes to things or like you like, I don't know. It's just like an industry where there's a lot of pressure and sometimes like, if you're just in that world, you're not, you know, you're constantly thinking about it and you're putting too much on yourself and you can initially burn out. Yeah. And I love people in stand-up comedy. That's what I'm saying. I do have some great friends in stand-up comedy who've celebrated my wins and those are like amazing people. But I just think it's so important to have two worlds.
Absolutely.
Because it's just, I don't want to get burned out. And I just feel like I'm a happy person and I'm optimistic and sometimes I make mistakes in stand-up and I don't want those mistakes to be my whole life.
For sure.
I want to be able to make those mistakes, go outside of those mistakes, breathe, understand what I did, come back and then build stronger.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and just...
What do you think, like, for like the times that you're like feeling like overwhelmed, or the times that you're like, this feels like dark? Like, what are the moments that like that feel dark to you in stand up?
It's just you know, it's your head. It's your head.
Oh, I thought you were saying me.
My God.
You're like,
what if I was like, I came on the podcast, Monterey. No, I'm dead. Monterey, you're I was just saying, Monterey is literally a gift and a joy. She literally wrote me a card. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They're great people in stand up. Yeah. I think your darkest demon in stand up is you.
Yeah.
That's like Monterey. No.
That's what I thought you were like. There's been a lot of us who come together, and I'm the one that's standing up to you, Monterey, but we all think you're a really dark energy.
So I don't know what
we're kicking you out.
Anyways, you guys have a good one. No, I was like my own personal, like me, like that's, you know, cause you know, I think audiences are amazing. Like, you know, you know that you're gonna bomb sometimes, and that's not what's dark for me. I think bombing is always like you go in with the initial thought you can do that. Yeah. That won't really kill my spirits. What kills my spirits is me in my head thinking I am not enough or I should stop, or like, you know, and also I'm a pushover, which being a pushover in this industry is really hard. Yeah. I say yes to everything. Yeah. And I'm afraid to say no to things, and I just have to do them. And I'm like, Yeah.
And you don't, and that's the thing too, is like so many people, like when you see the, you know, Britney Spears and she's shaving her head off, or Lindsay Lohan can't stop doing cocaine in bathrooms, or like whatever. It's like when people are seeing those things, they're like, oh, it's like this girl's team around her. And absolutely, it's the girl's team around her. And that's why it's like, you know, people don't understand that it's like all the decisions that you make have to be from a healthy spot, because the people that are around you are the people who either are going to enable you or like genuinely know what's best for you. So if you have a publicist, a manager, an agent who are like commission, and you got those managers because you're like, oh, they're so good, they rep this person and this person, and I want the accolades instead of like, hey, this person actually makes me feel good.
Right.
That's when you have to be like, oh, all your decisions have to be based in a healthy state, because years later, it's like those things will then interact with like future problems. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it doesn't matter if someone's with CAA, it doesn't matter if someone's, you know, produced this film. If their energy when you're around them, if they disrupt your piece, or they make you feel awkward or uncomfortable, or they're like a little too like pressure or whatever, then it's like,
cut them.
Yeah, you gotta do it now and not do it down the road, because it's like those things catch up with people where you're like, oh, then you're surrounded. I mean, Justin Bieber went through it. It's like you're just surrounded by a whole team of people who do not have your best interest, because their best interest is like how it serves them. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And you're like, wait, why is my life falling apart?
Right. So that is important to just kind of realize now and go through it. And that is the best part too. It's like, so that's great you say that, because that's today I learned from you saying that, reminded. Yeah. And then I just keep learning that lesson too. Yeah. And so even though that is the darkest part of stand-up, it's like, it's also like, you know, in every career field you build, you get better. And that is something I'm trying to strengthen, where it's like, say yes to the things and the people that, like, you know, have your best interest. Add value, like, you know, aren't burning you out, like whatever. And
and you don't owe anybody anything, because it's like at the end of the day, there's so many times where I've done things where I'm like, oh, this person's my friend or my best friend, like I should do this for them even though I don't want to, or I'm like, oh, this comic did this for me, I should do this for them. And then every time you make the decision like for them and not for yourself, it always ends up bouncing back, because it's like, oh, I either start resenting the person because I'm like, they don't even know that I'm doing this for them. And like, they don't even realize that I'm completely like going out of my way, but I could have just said no.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, then you build that resentment, and then there's like awkward tension. And it's like, oh my God, if I just constantly, every single moment, any decision, did the thing that I actually wanted or did the thing that actually felt good, your life would be so much easier.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And we constantly live like for others, and it's normal, but it's like, it's just the point of being aware of it. Right. And then like, you know, because knowledge isn't just gaining, knowledge is applying. You know what I mean? You have to apply it. So the reason why we learn lessons over and over is because they're like, bitch, you're not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Exactly.
And when you do it, they're like, all right, now you move on to the next cycle. Yeah. And like, let's see how long she can do that for. Right. And then when you learn all the lessons, they're like, all right, now you can do the next one. But a lot of people just
stay on that level playing field where
they don't ever leave
to the next level.
Their high school town, you know what I mean? Yeah. Their hometown, their high school town.
High school town, which is different from the kindergarten town.
You know those
For high
ones.
school, we always have to move town. No.
Yeah, just high school. So, you know, some girls were sluts and they have to leave their high school because they're like, you got to change high schools now. Did you have that?
Yep. We did.
Yeah.
Well, we had a couple. It's so sad because they're not sluts. It's just like at the time, it's like people thought, you know,
For sure.
somebody like had fellatio.
Yeah, fellatio.
I'm like, I'm such a prude. I'm like, there was fellatio going on.
There was interaction between a mouth and a private
and,
part.
and there was like multiple in one night, and then it got back to school, and people were like saying things, and it was really sad because it's like that person is a great person, and they were under the influence.
For sure.
They ended up staying, which is good, but it followed them all 4 years. And I was like, God, that sucks because that person rocks.
Totally. And it happens to a lot of young girls in high school. And I always say to people too, it's like, because everyone, you know how we have like love languages. So everyone receives love or validation in different ways. Right. So it's like when some people it's personality and they're funny. Some people they played sports. Some people they had a trampoline in their backyard. You know what I mean? Like some people, their mom had all the cool snacks. So it's like everybody like had something. We're like, oh, this girl. But it's like, if you were a girl and like maybe you didn't have those options, and then like one time, you know, you're all in a bikini and the boys are like, ooh, like look at Becky's boobs. And everybody's like, Becky's boobs. And this is the first time she's starting to get that attention now. She's like, oh, she's like, this, you like boobs. Oh, okay. And then that's the way she thinks to like keep, you know, receiving love is she's like, oh, it was the boobs. So like, I'm going to flash my boobs. And they're all like, oh, Becky, you're so cool. Like invite her to the sleepover. She flashed. And then the girls start inviting her because they're like, oh, when Becky's around, all the boys are around. So now, you know, her male friends only like her because of that, and her female friends only like her because of that.
Right.
And then she just keeps going with it. And then all of a sudden it's just, she goes one step further, like, okay, well now they're asking me to suck the dick and everybody thinks I'm cool and popular because of that. Like, why don't I just do that too?
Right.
And then she does it and everybody's like, slut, whore. And she's like, hey, you guys kept giving her the breadcrumbs to like, for her to think that this is okay.
You did that to Becky.
You did that to Becky.
That was you.
But it's like, yeah, I see how women go down that road at such a young age. And I had a girlfriend like that where it was like she lost her virginity in like 7th grade, and like then that's the only way she knew how to like receive love. And it's like if people stopped like looking at them like, oh, what a slut, like what a whore, it's like, hey man, like that's a girl that's like learned, you know, to make choices like off of unhealthy patterns based on just wanting to be liked,
right? You
know, and you're like, don't condemn her, like try and, you know, like check in on her and ask her if these are the things that she wants, you know what I mean? Whatever.
No, I love it.
But yeah, I was like,
so full of wisdom. I love it. So I'm like sitting back, holding those crystals, listening. I'm like, yeah. Preach.
Yeah, preach, sister.
You're like, are you drunk? I'm like, yeah.
You're like, let's call Becky on FaceTime right now.
Becky, get on over here. We're doing shots.
Becky, you're not a slut, all right? What happened was, she's like, I have 4 kids.
She's like, that was you, and you're just using my name. Okay, Becky.
Okay, Becky.
Still in denial.
She's a little crazy. Yeah.
Don't listen to her.
Audrey, you have to stop calling my house. Yeah. Okay, going back to, so you're saying, so like have you always been like into like spiritual stuff?
Yeah. So, okay, so I began like, what if I was like, I began, and then it was like till 3 a.m. You're like, there's police. Like, you got to get out of the chair, ma'am. And I'm like, I'm almost done.
Yeah, I don't need the lights on. You could just keep the mic rolling.
I'm like sweating ass. You're like, you don't need to be.
Why is her shirt off again?
Okay, so I went to, I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade. So they always were preaching about God and stuff. I didn't really agree with the Catholic religion.
Yeah.
However, confirmed and baptized, because that's just, you get confirmed.
You're like, because I'm better than you.
Yeah, it's like, it's because everyone, I was 8th grade when they confirmed me, and I wanted to be popular with them. So I was like, you have to get confirmed. I was like, yeah. And then little do I know, my own religion hates that I'm gay. No, not everybody.
Not everybody.
I love how to be careful what I say in podcasts. I'm like, I am.
You're like, there are some cool Catholic people.
I do support.
They drive safe.
No, that was just my personal experience with it. But it was like, so I got confirmed, whatever. They always talk about religion. I did not agree with a lot of the things that we were, taught.
And this is like, how old are you at this point? Like 13?
Yeah, I'm like young. So, but I believed in, I had my own opinions. And so I was like, ooh, I have a strong spiritual base, because I was like, I don't agree with what you're saying, but this is what I do think about spirituality.
Yeah.
And like a God or like whatever presence, like that was always so apparent to me. So I knew I had a strong belief because I had opposing opinions. And then I, went to public high school. It was great. I joined a gospel choir.
Oh.
I know. I tried to be in the top show choir, and the list came out, and it's so funny because the top show choir at school was it. I did not audition for the gospel choir. Wow. I'm looking at the names. My name is not on the choir list. And I'm like, that's impossible. I just did madrigal choir for 3 years.
You're like, that's impossible. I'm the loudest one.
I know. And then someone was like, check the gospel choir list. And I check it. My name's on there. It was out of the norm that I joined the gospel, but it was the best thing I ever done. There was so much spirituality. We went to all these different kinds of religions, but all gospel churches every Sunday with my choir. Oh, cool. And I just felt, again, just a lot of like, whatever. And so I really had a strong belief, and I was really called to something like spiritual wise, not even God or religion, just like spirituality and like happiness and celebration. Right. And then my aunt, she knew that was a strong side of me, and she had told me, she was like, I've had a lot of weird things happen. I feel like I have the cunning eye, whatever. And she had a crazy experience happen when she was pregnant. It was like a whole thing. She was pregnant, and that's why they were saying that maybe she was hearing things because she was pregnant. Wow. My old uncle, because he's out of the picture now, he was gone at work, and she was in there, and she was pregnant with the baby and then she had a baby too that was in a bassinet. So the baby stood up in the crib or bassinet or whatever, and was like pointing and was like, mommy, daddy, raincoat, and like kept saying that over and over. No. And then she hears like a baby crying outside, and she's like trying to figure out, and then later they find a picture in the attic of a mom and a dad holding a baby in a raincoat, and they found out that the dad hung himself in their house. Whoa. Right. So I have chills, and that all pieced together for her later. Wow. But we always share that. And I was she told me that, and she felt like she could tell me that because I'm like,
you're like, I'm 6, calm down.
I know, I'm this, but I'm always talking about spiritual. But this is when later too, when she was telling me. And so that was weird. And then, my sorority, I was in a sorority. What if I paused for 5 minutes, just let that land? And you guys were like,
we're like,
okay,
cool.
I was like, and so when I was in my sorority,
I don't see you guys reacting.
I was
how people
Gamma Phi. You guys know. You guys
have you heard of us?
Care?
Yeah. I'll show you pictures.
Yeah. But I was at a sorority. We got freaking bombed one night and went in our basement, and our house mom was down there.
Where did you go to college?
Indiana University.
Okay.
And our house mom, she's like this alcoholic Tennessee house mom. She's like, are we calling the spirits on the Ouija board? And we were like, yes. And we like light a bunch of candles. We're drinking Taka. It's cheap alcohol. And then it's not working for anyone. And then I get on the board, and all fucking hell lets loose. And it's like everyone starts crying. We connect with this spirit named, first it says his name is Jew. Jew. We're like,
wait, what?
And we had a very Jew.
I thought you were saying it was a Jew.
Yeah, it was a Jew spirit.
And he said we all owed money.
Yeah, we were in a very Jewish sorority, so everyone was like, Jew? And it was like, I don't think that's what, and then it said jewel. So it's the same, Jewl. And it kept misspelling things. Yeah. And we were like, all right, like, you're dead. And it was like, yes. And they're like, what'd you die for? It spells out Merber. So then I'm like, all right, everybody's pretending, but I know I'm the only theater minor in the group. So everyone's crying, and I'm like, okay, I'm the only actress in here.
I'm the only one who's with talent.
Y'all are in telecommunications, and I'm a theater minor.
Yeah, these bitches can't fake, right?
Yeah. I'm the only one.
All right.
So then I'm kind of getting a little freaked, and then and I'm like the one asking the questions, and I was like, are you in heaven or hell? And then it spells out hell, and then we're freaking out a little bit more. And then it starts like, and then I was like, what are you in hell for? And then it spells out Merber again.
No.
So then we're kind of these crazy scenarios. And then I said, hammered, I was like, did someone try to hurt you and you murdered your ex-boyfriend and then you murdered yourself? And then it went to yes. And I was like,
wow.
And I was like, but maybe I'm just hammered. Maybe we're just subconsciously pushing this. I'm not kidding you. So we have the lights out. So we have no idea what's going upstairs. No. We go upstairs. Power is out. all the girls are like using their flashlights and they go, we blew a fuse, we're all straightening our hair, because it was like Friday night and they were going to the frat. You're all straightening. I was like, we don't blow fuses from your goddamn straighteners. We would have blown it millions of times.
Yeah.
And everyone's in the basement crying. We go to this frat house late at night and I'm like hammered, whatever, like some frat, and I'm like, I saw God tonight. And everyone's like, excuse me? I was like, pour me a shot, I saw the devil. And then I was like, I gotta go home because this was way too much. Then we had a running joke in our sorority called like about Jewel or whatever, and then little things happen here and there. We were sleeping in the basement one time where it happened, me and my friend Allie and Avery on the couches, and something hit the wall and we look and a shoe is on the ground, and I'm like, who threw the shoe? So we don't know if someone ran down and threw a shoe as a joke. It's like everyone was like, and then I'd come home hammered in the kitchen and be like, come on out, Jewel. Yeah. And everyone's like, can you stop? Like, please stop. And I'm like, come and get me, Jewel. So that happened. And then, do you guys care I'm jumping into that?
Oh my God, no.
Okay.
Yeah, this is hilarious.
And then here was the moment in LA where I was like, ooh, I think I have something.
Yeah.
Because then we did the Ouija board again here on the night before Halloween. And that time there was drinking again. And I'm like,
well, it's funny that you say drinking, because it's like you know, drinking is called spirits, right? Because when you drink, you can alter your consciousness.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah.
Is that why it's called spirits?
Yeah. So it's like, because you can alter your well, that's like the room. I don't know if that's a scientist or whatever, but it's like in the spiritual community, people believe that it's named after, because you can alter your conscious, and when you're in altered states of consciousness, it's like then you can tap into, I mean, that's all like, I mean, psychics can do it without alcohol, you know what I mean, or without drugs, but like when you do psychedelics or whatever, you're altering your consciousness, and that's why you start seeing things or whatever. And it's the same thing with alcohol. But the reason why people, you know, try to not do alcohol is because you're the spirit, the energetic matter that's, you know, alcohol is made out of, is just a lower vibrational, you know, like energetic form or whatever. So it's like you have the possibility of attracting like lower energy. So that's why it's like not recommended to. I was like, so you're possessed.
Holy shit! I didn't even know that. Did you know that?
He's like, dude, I'm playing Mario Kart. No.
Spirit. That is so. Someone's like, Jim's wine and spirits. You're like, you get that? You fucking get it, Jim.
Yeah,
Jim, you freaky possessed guy.
Freaky man.
Okay, wow. Okay, that makes sense, because this time was weird too, because, and I told Thomas about this too, and we were playing the Ouija board, and I started getting strong images in my head, and it got really weird. Like I said, like there was an image, and it was like glow in the dark, stick on stars, and I had everybody here, or everybody was there at the Ouija board, backs me up, because everyone knows as a comedian you stretch the truth, whatever, to get the story and get reactions. But I have witnesses, and like at my Halloween thing I had at my house the next day, they were all like, "No, it's true, it's true," and I was like, "Yeah." I'm a medium. I'm like, yeah. Like mediums don't jack off the crystals. I'm like, yeah. But literally, so I'm getting this image, and we're playing Ouija board, and it's like a glow in the dark, stick on stars. They won't leave my head. Very specific. And I said, and it was on my left side.
Yeah.
Or like somewhere. So I felt like either I wasn't reading correct, or it was like Brian was on my left, my friend. So I literally looked at him and was like, glow in the dark, stick on stars mean anything to you?
Yeah.
And then he starts sobbing. So his brother who passed, the one memory he associates with him is glow in the dark, stick on stars, and his brother passed, and they still have him on the lower bunk bed. And he thinks about his brother when he thinks about those stars when he goes home.
Wow.
So I thought that was really weird. And and then more images start coming in. Yeah. Everything is flooding in, and it's like, then I see AP3. This one was wild. Or no, it went to AP3, and then I see popcorn.
Right.
And I almost taste a buttery smell in my buttery taste, and I was like, AP3. It did the AP3, and I was like, I said, Logan, does buttery popcorn anything mean anything? Because he's the one who did AP3. He's like, yeah. My grandma that passed, we watched American Pie 3 together and ate buttery popcorn. I was like, that is crazy. And then I see cotton, but being cut in half. So cot. And I didn't know who that was too. So I said, what does cot mean?
Right.
And then a girl in the group was like, also had lost a brother. These are people who've lost very significant people. She was like, my brother and I never fought, but the one thing we fought about is when we slept somewhere, who was going to get the cot. So she thinks about the cot.
Yeah.
And then it was frustrating because it was like, I feel like I'm seeing these images, but I don't have messages to relay. I'm just seeing images. So maybe
that's
just
how it works. Like that's how the same thing happens to me. Is it's like people think that like you're gonna get these complete sentences and you're gonna be like you're just gonna repeat it, but it's like you have to remember it's like it's you know, all a psychic is someone who can like take a call, you know what I mean? Like your antenna is getting sharp that you can receive a call that's coming through now, but instead it's like, you know how like long distance or cell service can only go, you know, so far, but it's like now it's going through another dimension. So it's like you're only able to pick up what you can pick up, and sometimes it's just images, or sometimes like for me I'll get images, but I'll also get like words that like come through, but it's like I'm not hearing it audibly. Like it's not coming out of I don't hear it through my ears, but it's not my thoughts. It's like it's a separate, it's almost like someone's like pouring words into my brain, and then I have to say them. And if I don't say them, like I get like a headache, like in like the middle of my forehead. And so I'm like, but yeah, it's like this. So it's like a lot of people, you know, can be psychic. So it's like, and when people hear psychics, they just have this like complete like mystical like misconception of it. And it's like all it is so like, remember at the end of the day, like on a, you know, science, subatomic level, everything's just like a vibration. So atoms and molecules form compounds. Those compounds form chemical reactions. Those chemical reactions form matter. And it's like, whatever, that's like, we're all built. But the smallest form of anything is just a vibration, or it's light, or it's frequency, which is sound. So it's just those three things. So even like words, like if I say a word and I say love, that's the sound of it. If I were to write out love, that would be it in written form. But if I were to feel love, we can't see the actual like, you know, pattern. But if you were to have like a, you know, this crazy scientific like microscope, you would be able to see, you know, when you hear like music and you see those sound waves, like love, it's the same thing where it's like there are sound waves to it. We can't see it. So it's like everything in every form can be like written, it can be spoken, it can be felt, and it can be heard. But sometimes, because like we don't have like the full spectrum of sight or sound, we assume that it's like, oh, it must not be there. But it's like it is. So when you walk into a room or you're in that altered state of consciousness, you're just picking up on vibrations that are there, because they're there whether you pick up on them or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like if we're in this room or not, like things still exist. You know what I mean? So it's like, when you come in here and you're in that altered state of consciousness, those vibrations, all they're doing is they're just going through your brain, and you're a human, you speak English, so you interpret that vibration. So if you feel the vibration and say the vibration is love, or the vibration is sadness, the vibration is like someone's dad died, I like feel like some sadness and I feel a dad energy, then you just start interpreting it through words. But it's like all you did is just pick up on a vibration. You know what I mean? And like people think it's like some crazy mystical, I mean it is,
but it's a vibration.
But it's like it's just information being poured in. And then, you know, because we have brains, we know how to interpret things. Like even you just looking at a water glass, that's because you've seen that. But if you like concentrated on it, like when people get into like deep meditative states, you'll start to see where it's like it's not a solid, you could see where it like, you know what I mean? Like it'll start to, because everything's moving, you know? You're like, it's moving right now.
It like catches on fire, and
I'm like, it's an earthquake.
I'm like,
I'm like, Audrey, you're okay. But it's just one of those things where it's just like people always, you know, do you know how to explain the internet, how it works? Absolutely not. No. Do I know how to explain how a microphone works or a camera works?
It's so true. It's like, how the fuck?
Right. And we don't always have the science to like.
Simulation.
That's how it works. It's like we thought the simulation.
What's that? One more.
I know that. I know there's a battery somewhere and there's a plug. So that's something. But it's like, you know, we didn't know how to. We thought there was only, you know, our solar system in space. And then we have the science and we're like, oh, there's tons of other galaxies and universes. And it's, you know, we thought the earth was flat. Some people still do, you know, and then we have the technology now to see that like, oh, it's this. And it's like one day there will be the technology to like understand that our brains work as receptors, and we're just pulling in information and then interpreting it and communicating. That's all a psychic is doing, you know? And of course there's hacks and there's bad everything, but it's like, or you get your wires mixed up. Like I said, like there's times where I'll be like, oh, I'm just seeing this image over and over. And sometimes it doesn't go to anybody. It could be their past life and they're just not there in their journey yet to even like recognize like, oh, like that does have some personal thing towards me right now. But people are like, that's not me. That's not true. And you're like, all right, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I just saw that. Yeah.
Sorry.
It'll make sense 5 years from now. I don't know.
That's the best too when it starts making sense to people. I've heard stories too where like it does, like 5 years, they're like, holy, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah. Are you the only child?
No, I'm one of 7.
One of 7.
Yeah, I'm in a blended fam though.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've got 3 blood, 3 step.
Wow. Okay. And wow. And are you in the middle or
second oldest?
Second oldest. Yeah. And you didn't have any brothers and sisters die?
I know. I had significant people in my lifetime, but not brothers and sisters.
Okay. Yeah.
Had a good friend pass.
Yeah, boy.
No, it was, yes, but he was a friend, but not a good friend. I'd say my sorority sister, a good friend, passed while we were still in college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And have you ever been able to like communicate?
Yes. So that's Thomas Dale. That's what, it was wild. That was nuts. So it was during the pandemic. I really needed to reach out because I felt like I wanted to see if he could talk to her. That was the main reason of seeing, because, and he kept saying images and trying to put them together, and I eventually pieced something together, and he was like, does like a barn mean anything? And I was like,
a barn?
Yeah. He was like kind of costume clothing, and I was like, yes. And he was like, okay. He was like, I feel like impact at the back of my head. And she died of blunt force trauma to the back of her head. And she was murdered. So that's too dark. Yeah. Right. Yeah. One of my good friends was murdered.
Jesus Christ.
Someone took her from campus and
So was it a college kid or like
no, so he was prowling the campus, and then like a bunch of people stepped forward, and like women stepped forward and was like, that was him. Like he has like dragged and drugged a bunch of women to the woods and like assaults them. But she, Hannah, my friend that passed, is her major actually was, she wanted to be like a sex therapist, and she loved her body and her life, and she wanted to be a counselor for people in the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And so she fought him super hard, and I don't think he planned on her coming back to it. But he like knocked her out on the console, took her to the woods, and then she came back to it.
Wow.
And then she fought him too hard, I think, and then.
Ugh, that's terrible.
I know, but he never assaulted her or anything because he couldn't, which is not a silver line, but kind of is. And then like when he got taken away, all these women came forward, and then like she like I think she's a hero because she like saved potential cases that could have just kept going. And
totally.
And because she fought him off so hard, he left his cell phone at her feet.
You're like, wow.
I know. So the next morning, and we were out searching for her, and
wow.
And they like found her cell phone at her feet. And
that's super traumatizing.
It was pretty, And for some more of my sorority sisters, it's way more traumatizing. The ones that were, so she was pledge class above me.
Right.
But she was someone who, she wanted to be a sex therapist, and we always kind of joked, like, I was like, you'll be my sex therapist, whatever.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't out at the time. Yeah. I was actually dating a boy, and something was off with that relationship, so I knew there was probably a side of me, whatever.
Right.
She was someone who I always was like, oh, Hannah will be my, like, sex therapist, whatever. And she was just kind of like she always was like a great, like, her and I laughed a lot together, and she was like an older sister figure. And then when she was a senior and I was a junior, we kind of drifted a little bit because seniors live off campus, so we weren't like hanging out all the time. And
it doesn't matter. If someone's significant in your life, their impact and how they made you feel is,
so it was rough. So, and it's something that sticks with me all the time. And I graduated in 2016, so far away but not that far. So it was like I went to Thomas Dale specifically for that, and he gave me exactly what I wanted.
Oh, good.
And he said that Hannah was saying to tell me to go with the girl in the vintage roller skates. And this is before Veronica even told me she liked me, anything like that. So at the time I was like, that's weird. And then Veronica sends me a photo of her new, as just friends. She was like, look at these new vintage roller skates I got. And I was like, and then she confessed her feelings for me 2 weeks later.
Wow.
It was nuts. So those are the things that keep me like on my spiritual game, because I'm like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
And then another girl in my sorority who came out, she says she has a whole thing with Hannah too, that now she is an LGBTQ therapist, but didn't even think about it. But Hannah kept showing her signs, and like now, so that's like my one person that I'm really like, I've lost a grandpa, but it's like, and then I've had friends die from crazy things. We weren't that close though, but Hannah was someone I lived with and like looked up to, looking up to, and remembering wanting to come out to her.
Sorry, this is a weird question. I don't even know if you'll know the answer, but did your mom have a miscarriage? Like, did she ever?
Yeah, she had an abortion. Is that the same thing?
Yeah. Is that the same?
You guys, you're like, I don't know how to tell you this.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm like, she had 8 miscarriages, but also abortions. That's
yeah, no.
She might have had a miscarriage too.
Yeah, but I just knew it was like someone unborn. Yeah. But and I don't even know if she knew that. Well, no, you can't know if it was going to be a boy, but it was going to be a boy, and I didn't know if it was you or your mom, but it was just saying that it's like, I don't know if that's a guilt or something that your mom like still carries, but it's like, it's something because she still ended up having kids after. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so was it because she was young or
Yep.
So then
like in high school.
Yeah, because I was
16.
like, that's why, because I was like, someone popped up of a brother, and then you said it's 7 brothers, but I was like, it was someone that's why I was asking if you had anyone, a brother or sister died, because it was like, but I was getting that it was like unborn or like wasn't here, and I couldn't tell if died young or
it could be something else too.
Yeah. You're like, yeah.
But I think something else popped in my head that it could be as well, which would be like off podcast talk. But I see what you're saying.
Okay. And then does the movie Freaky Friday mean anything to you?
Freaky Friday.
Do you remember the movie with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah, I love that movie.
So they were saying something. They were like, tell her that they're saying something that like you struggle with. I don't know if you still struggle with it now, but like you struggle with like the fear of death.
Yeah, and the fear of like someone significant in my life. I keep like, I'm like dead afraid my dad's gonna die, because sometimes I just have like random thoughts of it. And I'm like, but maybe it's because I love him so much. I think it's because I love him like too much. And I'm afraid. I'm a psychopath. I'm like, I'm gonna live by myself, and then like I like double lock my doors. I push all of the things. I saw
that sketch. That was so funny.
I like push all the tables and chairs. I always think I'm gonna die. Yeah. And I hear like late night like sounds in the garage. I'm like, cool, there's a serial killer living murdering bodies below me. And then I'm like, no, Audrey, he works on motorcycles, I found out.
By the way, go watch her sketch of Living Alone or whatever that was. But that was so funny. But yeah, they told, so like I meditate before I come, and like these are like the messages that I got for you. But they said that you have like a fear of death, and they said for me to tell you Freaky Friday, and because they said in Freaky Friday, so when they become each other, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to give you the example of like, look how it's the mother inside of the daughter's body. They're like, that's what having a soul is like in a human experience. So they're like, it doesn't matter. So it's like your dad's soul, like if he's in this body or this body, they still exist like without the body. And so they're like, give her the example. I don't know why they specifically said Freaky Friday, but so it's like there's a lot of people obviously have like the fear of death, of like losing people that are like really close to us, but like it's so hard to like fathom, but like you have to know that it's like an afterlife is like so genuinely real, and so is like reincarnation. You know what I mean? It's like we come back multiple times. There's a really good book called, or you could watch, there's a series on Netflix. It's called Life After Death.
I saw it. Yeah. I watched it. I was all over that.
Right.
I'm all over that.
Yeah. But I have to get the name of the book, because anytime someone that I know that like they lost like a loved one, I always give them this book. And it's basically this guy who was a child. He was a pediatrician, and he kept having like young kids come in, and they're like, well, in my last life, my other mommy did this. Or like, nuts. And he just kept recording it. And he's like, oh, kids are weird. And then he started talking to other pediatricians, and he's like, hey, hey, do you ever have kids? And they're like, oh yeah, like
that's so
it's
nuts.
always up until they're around
chills. Yeah,
up until they're like around 6 years old. And then so he was like started compiling evidence, start working with all these kids who had these experiences. They started writing down all the information. These kids would write down addresses, birthdays, cities. They would tell them the names, and there's just all this evidence of this book of like all these cases where these kids would go in a picture. They'd be like, no, get the book called The Hollywood whatever. And then he would get the book, he'd turn to a certain page, he's like, see, that's me, I was in this movie. Like just create. And there's this one kid who was like, he was obsessed with planes his whole entire life, and he was like, no mommy, I died in a plane. Like Jesus. And then but it's like
that's just like what that was on Surviving Death, whatever. It was that little boy.
Hollywood. Yeah.
That's so
I'd be that they got that from that book that I'm talking about. So like that's from that book.
That is that whole thing is so insane. It's just too, it's like, but I don't want to lose the people until like I'm older and they can see my grandkids. And I hope that happens. I feel like I'm just on fear
for sure.
And I hope that happens. So I'm glad they're telling me that in case, but I hope that's not why they're telling me.
No. Oh, God, but they're no. They just are telling her like she has to be she has to know and be comforted that it's like you don't have to like live in like fear, you know what I mean?
I appreciate that they say that too for myself, even like me just these crazy scenarios where I'm just gonna I'm like no. 3, 2, 1, someone's about to barge in my apartment.
Say la vie. Yep, getting blown up.
I'm so dark. There was like an inflated basketball that looked like it had it's like had like white yarn, which happens sometimes. I was like, it's a dead head. Yeah. My neighbor chopped someone's head off, dead head, and I'm about to run over it. That is how psycho
but that's
my brain
because
goes.
you had that traumatizing experience when you were young, and something like that should never happens to people happened. And so now immediately you probably are the person where it's like your girlfriend doesn't call you back and you're like, oh shit, they're like dead. She's dead.
They're dead.
She's dead.
They're dead.
Yeah. But it's like, we have to like constantly like remind ourselves like to be present. And it's like when people say be present, they think they just mean like be here, like be now. And it's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But it's like be present means like getting yourself to like make sure you're okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
it doesn't mean just like, all right, like I'm talking and I'm not on my phone. That's being present. It's like, no. Being present is like, hey, take inventory. How do I feel right now? All right, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? Are you on fire right now? Is something happening to your life where you're like not safe? Are you, not being fed? Do you not have clothes? You know what I mean? You just go through the inventory. You're like, is a thing that I'm scared of not even happening? Yes.
Right.
And you have to say, okay. And what a lot of people do is they just try to shut it down and they don't let it actually go through their system. So it's like, if you're having fears and you're like, no, it's okay. Like, it's never going to happen. It's fine. I'm just being crazy. I'm just overthinking. You're just sweeping everything away.
Right.
You have to go like, okay, I'm afraid of my dad dying. Why am I afraid of my dad dying? Well, because I love my dad. And okay, why is that making me feel like I might lose this person? Well, because I'm getting all these opportunities and I just want him to keep celebrating in my life with, you know what I mean? You have to just go through and be like, what?
And break it down.
Yeah, break it down over and over until you get to the point of being like, oh, okay, I just want to make sure I spend more time with my dad. Like, I just need to, you know what I mean? If you'll find like the core of like what it is, but it's like, we just get so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable that we just try to, we're like, oh, let me pick up my cell phone and like text people, or oh, let me just like watch this funny thing, or let me just go eat something. And you're like, you're never really dealing with it,
Oh yeah.
But we gotta deal with our shit like head on. And I can tell that you're a overthinker, but like I don't want to say overthinker, I want to say over worrier.
Over worrier is a great word for myself.
Oh my god, my hands are so numb that I can't flip these cards. What are some of the, I'm gonna start flipping
I've
these.
gotten this guy before too.
Yeah, I've gotten this guy. This son of a bitch.
Oh yeah.
10 of wands. Yeah. 10 of wands. So you said you've gotten like or you have cards yourself too,
no,
right?
but we gifted my friend Lucy cards, and she's been doing them.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And honestly, it's so funny because anyone at a party who has them too, because people bring them to parties sometimes, I'm like, you and I, let's go in a corner.
Yeah.
They're like,
you and I
like scout them out. I'm like, you and I, we're going to talk.
We're going to talk. Oh my God. Literally the last like 10 Wow, that's so weird because the last person that I did it was, do you know Rob Puglisi?
Uh-uh.
He pulled sexuality and kick up your heels too last time.
Wow.
I was like, so you're actually not a lesbian. Your soulmate is Rob Puglisi. Okay, tell Veronica.
Okay, Rob.
Okay.
My number is no, Veronica. I'm kidding. She's not gonna listen. I was.
Yeah, she's like, girl, I don't care about you that much.
Yeah.
So, well, one thing too is that, so definitely like you have to part of your plateau or part of your standstill, like right now, like I don't know if you're feeling stuck or whatever, but it's like part of it is because like you aren't like awakening like this complete like other side of you. Like you are like, you know, obviously you're a comic and you're supposed to be doing comedy, but it's like, yeah, there is this whole like spiritual like side to you that like you're supposed to like develop too. And so it's like, it's kind of like if you're at the gym and you're trying to lose weight, it's like you can't just be at the gym. You have to eat healthy too. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're on this like mission of like success and like happiness, you're like, okay, you know what the job and like the money is, but like now we need like the emotional state or like the lifestyle that you're gonna live, and the lifestyle plus the career is like how you merge like to happiness and success.
Wow, I love that. I need that lifestyle thing.
So so they're like all of like these cards right here, like these are telling you, so this is like where your like soul is at. And like your soul, so like you definitely do have like psychic intuition and you know, clairvoyant like capabilities, and it's like they're inviting you to like be like, hey, like start like developing this. It doesn't mean you have to like, you know, just start.
You like don't hear from me, and you're like, I'm at like a 3-month retreat, and everyone's like, "She like, you know what? I might have said
she's wearing feathers on her head, and there's I didn't mean that. You're just like on a like float like in the middle of a river, like leading like some seance, and we're like, Audrey, you could you could have just meditated. But no, like, so you do have to like develop, like you don't have a foundation like for your soul. Like you're like every day when you wake up, I don't know what your routine is, but it's like you brush your teeth and you make your thing and then you're out the door and then you're, you know what I mean? Or you're like, you're on your phone, you know what I mean?
Phone is disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm like, wake up, I'm on my phone another day, I'm on my phone another day. Like,
yeah.
Get off your phone.
Yeah, they're telling me to tell you, they're like, she needs to set up a healthy foundation, because the more and more like she gets, the more and more she's gonna fall like off balance, like of like in an emotional state, or like in a, you know, just your personal mind like has to be taken care of, and how that gets taken care of is building that foundation. So it's like every morning you meditate, every morning you take your vitamins, every morning you make like a healthy little, you know, shot, not like, but like apple cider vinegar or whatever. And
you're like Svedka every morning.
I was like, you need vodka. What are you funny without it?
You take it.
You fucking bitch.
You can do things.
Yeah. But then it's like you, and because this is not only like your self-care routine, because you hear people like self-care and we think that means like hair masks and like push your cuticles back and like, you know, wear your cozy set. No. Self-care is like taking care of like your emotions, like taking care of the things that trigger you, taking care of, you know, making sure the people that are around you like serve your highest purpose. So it's like, you know, they're asking you right now, they're like, she needs to take inventory and she needs to set up this like routine for yourself, like journaling, you know what I mean? Like pick 5 things that you're like, these are my self-love 5 things, like meditating, vitamins, shot, you know, breath work, and freaking stretching, you know what I mean? Like do things. And they're saying that like a lot of the times, like, you know, when you have free time, you love to like, you're going to go on vacation. You guys are going to go to a lake house. You guys are going to do that stuff. And they're saying, try to blend the two. So it's like, instead of just like drinking and partying, they're like, you could do that. You could like have some drinks or whatever, but they're like, how about like one time go on a meditation retreat? They're like, how about one time like do a you know, go like camping and, you know, do psychedelics with your friends, like don't, you know, get crazy or whatever, but they're like, do things that like actually like promote like your mind growing and like promote like your soul growing and not just like, oh, this is just all fun. They're just saying, which is, it's not a bad thing. They're just saying like, hey, like develop this side of you, because once you do develop this side of you, it's like, they're saying like, that's when like all the other things like really start to open up, because again, like you as a comic and entertainer, it's like your how you enter, you know how people say like when they get famous, like whatever their hairstyle is or whatever their clothes are, like that just sticks with them, that's like their look. And then that's kind of how our soul is too. So it's like once you get like introduced to the world and it's like you're this person, it's like that's how you're gonna make people feel, that's how people are gonna know you. So they're like, make sure that when you're introduced to the world or whatever, that it's like you are this together person, that like, because you are a person of like light and like love and like healing. And so they want to make sure that like you are helping them get that mission across.
Wow,
they're
I
like,
love that.
you know, they're like, she's of light. And so it's like, we want her on this platform because, you know, she's going to help us. You know what I mean? Like you're going to bring light. And so they're like,
that's so make sure that I'm bringing light to myself.
And get that little routine. Like even if it takes you 1 hour and you have to wake up a little earlier, it's like, do it.
That's
like,
so funny you say that too, because literally it's what I've been struggling with. It's the phone thing. I think the phone thing is the most toxic thing ever. I think Instagram is so toxic. I think caring about what other people's stories are, or so much, and like people who are very toxic in my life, I'll check their stories and things like that, and I'm like, you have to mute them, and you have to tell yourself too, where it's like, yes, Instagram is a business, and you give yourself little times where you're like, okay, I'm allowed to check it from hours of this and this. Take all the notifications off Instagram. Like don't, because if you see the red dot, you're going to go on it. Right.
And you give yourself a little schedule, like, okay, I can check it here, you know, morning, afternoon, night. And you do have to put some work into it or whatever, but it's like, treat it as like a business and not as like an activity. You know what I mean? And like, because the more that you like, you have a lot of like, abundance and stuff that's going to like come to you, but they're like, hey, like if this stuff starts coming to you and you're still in this chaotic stage, like they're telling us, it's like, it's not, you're going to squander opportunities, because you're going to be in a state where it's like, oh, you're doing a late night set, but because like you don't have any balance or any foundation, you can't control your nerves. And then you're like out there and it's like, you know what I mean? So they're like, she has to make sure she takes the time, because again, what we said earlier, like the better you are as a person, the better you are as a comic.
Holy cow.
You know what I mean?
That's great. That's great.
But they're also saying it's like you definitely need balance. So it's like there's no like balance like right now in your life, and I don't know if it's like with I don't know if it has to do with like comedy or finances, but it's like I don't know if you're a person that like you get a little money and then you're like and you're not like good at They're saying like, make sure, like, of course it's nice to like reward yourself or whatever, but they're like, you know, this is like the phase in your life like right now, because it's like you're going through the thing, Audrey. You're going on the other side.
And you're going. And what if you're like, you're going to hell?
Yeah, you're like, going down.
You're actually,
you're not going to be around.
You're telling me that your
down.
soul's going to burn.
It's
I'm like,
dark.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's like you're going to the other side of like, oh, you're going to get more success. You're going to get more fame. You're going to, things are going to start popping off. And so they're like, they literally just said, they just did that to me. They go, tell her now that like, get this routine handled, because it's like, it doesn't ever mean like if you don't do it now your whole life, but it's like, no, you're gonna go through another 7 years of like trying to like, you know, maintain whatever, and then like having to learn this lesson over. So they're like, learn it now before, you know what I mean? So they're like, learn it now, so this way you don't have to go through a, you know, a Dane Cook situation or whatever. I mean, I'll cut that out. But it's like that's someone who, you know, they didn't work on their person, they came out, and then it's like you think you're on top, and then it's like it's a huge downfall, because it's like like you didn't as a person. Your demons gotcha. Get you. Yeah.
Damn, you're so right.
They'll always come. So yeah, and be smart and be smart with your finances. You know what I mean? Like
Lady Gaga was at the West Hollywood Abbey bar, and I was so excited. I like blew so much money, and I was like, "Lady Gaga is at this bar. I'm buying everyone shots."
It's
and
like not even anything to celebrate. Yeah, you're like
Lady Gaga.
You're like, did she talk to you?
No, I just saw her face, and I bought everyone shots. I mean, my God.
They're like, "Are you working with her?"
Yeah.
No.
No.
Did she talk to you?
She
no.
literally looked a little past my left ear, and I said, "That's it.
That's
I'm
it.
buying the bar.
Everything's on me, motherfuckers." They're like, dude, yeah. So definitely take the message of finances. But and also saying like you don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And because it's like the times where you feel like overwhelmed are the times where you put yourself in positions where you're like, could have said no, like could have said no to this, and like then what happens is you start displacing like on your inner circle, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if it's like girlfriend, and it doesn't have to be like displaced where you're like, fuck you, cunt. It's not that, but it's like you get irritable. You don't want to like do the things that they want to do. You're not maybe like being as like thoughtful or considerate or whatever. And it could be your friends, it could be family, it could be a lover or whatever, but they're saying that it's like when you feel overwhelmed, your inner circle is they're gonna feel the wrath of it. Like you're not at first, because it's like, you know, you're just gonna keep getting stuff, right? But the people around you are gonna start feeling it, and you don't want those resentments brewing up. You don't want these people not like, you know, feeling comfortable to be like, hey, Audrey, you're doing this a little too much. You need to
chill
knock
out.
it off.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, once you get that balance, and like once you have the ability to like basically like master like your mind, and, you know, just like knowing again that it's like what we said earlier before the podcast started, it's like not everything that your mind thinks or happens up there, it doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your mind and your soul are two different things.
Right.
And it's okay that it's like, you know, your computer is going to shut down sometimes. You need to upgrade the software, or you need to sometimes, you know, just completely clean it all out and empty everything out and just get it at a healthy base. So like we have to do that with our mind sometimes too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that's why meditation or doing the things like for yourself in the beginning of the day, so you have the time when you're not in an emotional state, because when you're in an emotional state, you reach for the vices, whether it's food, alcohol, sex, like needing validation, or, you know, reaching out to friends to give you whatever it is. And it's like, whatever the vice is, it's like we start making unhealthy decisions, and then our life is a reflection of all our decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So they're like, girl, you got this. And like big things are going to happen, but they're like, do the soul work, set the foundation, access that other side to you, because then you come into Hollywood or you come into entertainment at your healthiest, purest form, and then you can navigate through this whole entire industry. Like, because I feel like you need to know that you're going to be safe. Like there's like this like fear of like, I don't want this. I don't want to be this kind of person that like does this, or like I don't want that kind of person's career, or like I don't want like what if everybody's gonna hate me like that? Like there's like fears, like stuff like that, and they're like, no. If you do all this, one, we're gonna guide you and we're gonna help you, and you're gonna have your intuition so strong that like you're gonna know, like you're like, I don't want to get fucked over by a manager, or what if this accountant steals all my money, or whatever. There's all these fears, but they're saying like you're gonna know, because you're gonna activate your intuition.
You're gonna do the work to know, that, like clear the space for intuition.
And someone walks in and you're just like, I got a bad feeling about them. That's not your agent, even though he's like, well, I represent this person and this person. And you're like, my intuition knows. You know what I mean?
You're not.
Or someone's like, you gotta do this show, and you're like, oh my God, everybody did this show, but it's like, I just don't feel right about it. And it's like, oh, and if you don't listen to your intuition, you go on there and you bomb and all of America, you know what I mean? So it's just like knowing that you have the capability of completely navigating yourself, and they're telling you like you're safe, like with yourself. So that's all you need to do is build your foundation, get yourself into that, like, you know, you're going to start journaling, you're going to start meditating, you're going to start seeing stuff, and you're going to know like, I'm going to do this. Okay. And that's how I get to the next step. Okay. I just meditated, got this message. Okay. I know I'm going to work with this person. And it's like, they're like, that's how you'll move the whole entire time. And you're safe.
Wow.
You're safe, girl.
You're safe. God,
You're safe.
This is like the best like spiritual therapy.
Yeah. But also last thing, I was like sexuality. We gotta talk about
also
it.
last thing.
Yeah, but also
this is a dark cloud.
You were touched. No, but were you?
What?
Were you touched?
Oh, inappropriately?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I was in sex therapy. There's like signs of it.
Yeah.
From maybe childhood or something that I've buried.
Yeah.
It's unclear if those are false thoughts or not. Because you have to be careful of false. I've never been nothing that's happened that I can remember.
Right. They're saying that so like a lot of the times, like when people think that like, you know, sexual abuse has to be this like dark thing where it's like, you know, where it went the limit that you think that it went, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sometimes sexual abuse, even like children can pick up on someone's intent.
Yeah.
And children, you know, when he's like, say there's an adult and he's like, oh, let me help you climb the fence.
Yeah.
And he's like grabbing you in weird areas to help you. And you're like, well, I don't remember getting molested or whatever. But it's like, there's things like that happen to us when as children, we remember how it made us feel.
Yeah.
And we're like, you feel
I
icky
remember
and you
feelings,
feel.
yeah. And then I have weird like signs where it's like, I got in, like I couldn't do health class really because I kept like fainting and I didn't like the idea of learning anything about the body.
Yeah.
And it was like weird. Like all my sexual stuff is super delayed.
Right.
And so it's unclear if that's a side effect from that or if that's just how I was raised.
Hypnotherapy. Yeah. Have you ever done hypnotherapy?
No.
You should do hypnotherapy. There's I'll give you a girl that you could do it on YouTube and like just get it on there and you could do ones that like don't cost money, but like eventually, but it's like, yes, we can repress memories. And it's like, again, because memories are vibrations. So they just live inside of you.
Yeah.
And it's like, once you get into like those meditative states or the altered conscious state where it's like, oh, they can be released. So it's like that stuff. Like I would definitely do hypnotherapy because like, and I don't want to be like, you were molested. Yeah. And I don't want to, you know, but it's like,
I like drive home and like, fuck, that's what I
said. I got to do this.
That's it.
But they are saying they're like, look at that.
That would make it makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. And there's some, it's hard. False memories are hard or because you don't know if they're false. They could be real.
Right.
But they're there and they're like very vivid, but it's also like, you got to be careful because it's like,
for sure.
You never want to say something and accuse someone. But it's like, it's something. It's definitely something I've worked
for sure. And you don't have to focus on the part of like accusations. You can just focus on the part of like, why does this make me feel icky? Why does this make me feel uncomfortable? What, you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be on the other person because at the end of the day, it's like we can't control other people, and at some point we have to release them and be like, I need to release, because every experience you have with a person, there's like a cord attached to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And the people who have like negative effects on us, it's like you want to release that cord.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like
Agreed.
That's something where it's like doesn't matter if you confront the person or whatever, you just have to make sure you do the work so like you can get that cord off of you, and you can, you know, whether there's blocks in your own sexuality now, you want to be able to be like, oh my God, like I didn't even know I could have it be this much better.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I did some of the
yeah. I like that. Okay.
But yeah. So
that was great.
Yeah, those are your little, but girl, you got big things popping.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. And so it's like,
is that what that said too?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Is that, well, this thing, is that what
did you guys say that?
Yeah.
Like,
hello.
Stop screaming at the table. I'm like,
yeah. You're just like, tell me right now. Tell me right now. How much money am I going to have? No, but I mean, like a lot of these cards are saying like, hey, be comfortable with saying no, like get yourself in like the right headspace. Don't overwhelm yourself, because a lot of the things that you're overwhelmed by is like you. Yeah. Like you like think, you know what I mean?
It's me.
You're the fucking problem, Audrey. You know that?
Yeah.
But where are we on 10? Are we over? Oh, we're good.
Okay. Oh, wow. Look at us.
Well,
gabbing.
Just gabbing little girls. Well, that was this episode of the SHAMIC. We want to plug your socials.
Oh, yeah. You guys can follow me. Audrey Stewart. I don't know why there was a pause. Like I was going to get like... Audrey Stewart is no one gets that username. It's Audrey Stewart, but Audrey Stewart was taken. So like Audrey Stewart is art. Like I'm a piece of art. Oh. Anyways, if you didn't think that was funny,
you should get rid of that.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Well, that card said get rid of that.
That card said change your Instagram handle.
Yeah. Forgot to mention it. No, but thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
you're the best. I mean, this was like therapy. It was awesome.
Oh, good. Well, that was our episode of the SHAMIC. If you like it, please continue to like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much.